Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another podcast episode. First thing is that you should watch the entire episode so you get a full detail and understanding. And if you have more questions, please let me know in the comment section. Now, a lot of you who are my audience start on F1 visa when you enter into United States, and then from F1 visa you go on to OPT, and then you wait for H1B lottery to be picked up. Then you are on H1B visa. While you are on H1B visa, typically if you want to settle here, then your company, your employer will sponsor your green card, and then you are on the green card line until the priority dates become active, and then hopefully you get your green card. Now, what if I told you there is another option along with your H1B, which is actually kind of better option if you get it and if you're eligible, and also it gets you closer to green card. And yes, there is one. It's called O1 visa. There are two categories in O1 visa, O1A and O1B. In this video, we are talking about O1A visa. If you have questions about anything about O1 visa, please comment. Also, if you want to know more about O1B visa, then also comment. Rajiv ji and I go into very detail. Rajiv ji is our immigration lawyer. For those of you who are new to the channel, we talk about requirement, documents, process, eligibility criteria, why O1 is better, why we prefer O1, why it is get you closer to green card. Lot of fun stuff. So please watch the entire episode. I hope you do find it helpful. If you do, please like and share and subscribe. And enough of me. I'll let you enjoy the conversation.
All right. So the reason we like O1A visas, there are two or three different components. First one is it is exempt from the H1B lottery. So you do not have to worry about the lottery part. The second is it's a test case for a green card through EB1A. Because if you compare the criteria, they are mirror images of each other. If you qualify for an O1A, chances are you will qualify for an EB1A, but it is not a foregone conclusion. Sometimes you can get an O1 and still be denied an EB1A. Now, the question is what types of O1s there are. There are two kinds. There is the one that we are going to discuss today, which is people who have extraordinary ability in the sciences, education, business, and athletics.
Okay.
Actually, we've done a bunch of these in different fields. So sciences, education, business, and athletics. Then you have a different one for people in show business, which is called O1B. So there the criteria are slightly different. I will do.
And when you say show business, is it like actors, artists?
Actors, artists, TV
Dancers.
producers,
Okay.
Movie producers. So
Yeah.
people in the showbiz.
Okay.
But let's talk about, a lot of people would be interested more in the sciences, education, business, athletics for now.
Yeah.
So if we look at that, what are the criteria? So basically, O1A is available for those people who have sustained national or international acclaim. And the analysis begins like this. First, we see, have you ever won a prestigious award, national or international? So, for example, if you win the Pulitzer Prize in literature or the Nobel Prize in the sciences, or something which is not, Nobel Prize is the ultimate in dignity, but even something smaller than that, as long as it is a prestigious national or international award given to you because your qualifications and your accomplishments are recognized. Okay.
And I want to take a step back. So for students and like audience who's watching this, can they self-sponsor O1A visa?
O1A visa there is a method of self-sponsoring it, which is a little bit circuitous. It can be done, but it's done through an agent. It is not done directly. The most common scenario for O1s is usually an employer.
Oh, okay.
So, but it can be done because in many of the fields, you can actually have an agent instead of an employer. So it isn't strictly self-sponsored, but it is sponsored through an agent, from what I remember. But I have 99.9% of our O1As are through employers.
Through employers, okay. And so is it similar conversation with your employer that, hey, I want to apply for O1 instead of H1?
Yeah, it's a similar conversation, and I don't think they are required to pay for it. So I don't see any reason why they should be required to pay for it. You can offer to pay. Some visas you can't pay for, like H1Bs.
Yeah.
you can't pay for it. L1, you can pay for it. O1A, you can pay for it yourself. So first we look at one-time national award. So if you look at the page that I had sent you,
Yeah, let me
the,
share the
yeah,
screen.
see if you can. You're a magician. Look at you. Yeah. Try to zoom it. Yep. You can zoom it.
Yep.
Perfect. Now, I'm not sure how legible it is actually quite legible. So at the very top, it says O1A, extraordinary ability in the sciences, education, business, or athletics. Next is, can you demonstrate extraordinary ability through sustained national or international acclaim? Next is, have you received a major award? Yes, we are done. No, USGS will do a two-step analysis, a quantitative analysis and a qualitative analysis. Quantitative is, do you meet 3 out of 8 criteria? That's the
Mm.
quantitative analysis. But that's a threshold. Just because you meet 3 criteria doesn't mean you qualify, because there's a second step called qualitative analysis. Okay. And in the little pink box to the right, it says USCIS will consider similar evidence if one or more of the criteria don't apply to your profession or your situation. Okay.
Mm.
So with that, we begin the quantitative analysis. And quantitative analysis is, do you meet 3 out of the following 8? And the 8 are highlighted in each column: awards, membership in associations, published material about you, judging your peers, your contributions to your field of major significance, scholarly articles, performing leading or critical role in distinguished organizations, and high remuneration. So each one of these is a separate criterion. And if you meet 3 out of 8, we will then move you to step 2 of the analysis, which is overall, do you look like one of the top guys or top ladies in your
Oh, so
profession?
it's at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's at the bottom.
so if you meet one of three of these, then you
Yes,
go
to
this.
next step.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this I've noted there that this is really the hard part, because this is discretionary. And they can say, yeah, you meet actually 5 out of 8, but you are not really top 10%.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
happens. And we had one of these cases, and it ended up in court too, and it was approved later on. So the bottom line is that ultimate analysis, because it is dependent upon the judgment of the officer, do not be too confident no matter how good your case is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let's look at the
And
quantitative criteria.
and is
So
it same regardless of if you go through employer or without employer? Is it this criteria
same,
is
they,
same?
they are the same.
Okay.
The criteria do not change.
Okay.
So first one is awards. So even though you have not won a major award, have you won lesser awards? Something which is less than a national or international level award. And I have notes there. Examples are, for example, if you have something from a national institution or professional association, which is a well recognized award. Actually, there's some clarifications made last month. Much of this is actually coming from last month.
Okay.
Certain doctoral dissertation awards and PhD scholarships. So if you've got PhDs or dissertation awards from extremely well-known institutions, you might be able to meet this criterion.
Hmm.
This is new. This did not used to be there. We argued for it, but they hardly gave it to us. Now they said they'll give it to us.
Okay.
Okay. Even awards that you get at conferences,
Right.
and this is also new. And they say USCIS will then assess the significance of the awards. Now, this goes to step 2 analysis. You got this award, but what is its significance? Does it show that you're one of the top people? And they'll look
Oh.
at the number of awardees. If you have 1,100 people getting the same award, it's probably not that significant.
Hmm.
If you got top 3 or top 5 getting the award, it probably is more significant. Then they talk about limitations on eligible participants. So if the award is only open to PhD candidates from Harvard,
Hmm.
it's not significant. But they say if it is open to R1, R2 level universities, and there are levels of universities, or it is open to the whole universe of PhD students, it has significance.
Hmm.
So that's how awards look. Make sense?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we look at whether
And
you are.
I'm guessing the conferences, so it could be like competitions as well, like business case competition, which is
I would argue for it, but it's not in the
mm,
literally it's not in there.
okay.
But
Got it.
if it, for example, how about hackathons?
Yeah.
I would argue for it.
Yeah. Okay.
It isn't necessarily a conference, but
Right.
it is a congregation of learned people for a particular purpose. What exactly is a conference?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
like there are a lot of like students would go to business case competition, but I
yep.
mean, when I went in one of them, which is hosted by Deloitte, which is very popular company, and there was about 100 plus universities from all over the United States came. So I
I
would,
would argue for it because
yeah,
look at the number of university participants. We
yeah,
can even talk about the level of the universities that are participating. And if
mm,
you are one of the placeholders, you don't have to be the top guy or
yeah,
the top girl
yeah,
because remember, these are lesser awards.
right,
I
yeah,
have won a case where there was not the person didn't win, but they were nominated for a very, very heavily contested award.
mm, mm,
11,000, 12,000 top level scientists.
mm,
So sometimes you can argue this as a lesser award.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
Then the second criterion is membership in associations that require outstanding achievement as a precondition to membership.
right,
Okay. It was, if you are just paying your dues and you become a member, that's not an association that's looking at your qualification. They are just looking at your check.
okay,
So two examples are given by the USCIS: membership and fellowships.
mm,
Sometimes you can be a fellow. And what they are going to look at is who judged you to so that you could become a member. Are the judges themselves extraordinarily qualified individuals? So they look at the qualifications of the judges. Sometimes you can have different levels of memberships. So they give an example in IEEE. When you become a fellow level member, you are judged very rigorously, and
mm,
it is required that you have made important contributions to the advancement of application of engineering, science, and technology, bringing the realization of significant value to society.
mm,
That's at the fellowship level. So within the association, you could have different levels of membership. One level may not qualify,
mm,
but another level might.
mm,
And they also give an example of membership as a fellow in the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence. So if you are a fellow of AAAI, you would probably qualify for this criterion. Because they also give the example that in AAAI, you have other AAAI fellows judging you. So
mm,
obviously, these people are very highly qualified.
yeah,
Now we are doing associations, and we are coming to the next one, which is published material about you in major trade publications or major media.
mm,
Okay, so it has to be about you on your or your work. A passing reference is not going to be enough. USCIS says if it's just a citation, Yudi has said this in this paper, and that's one line. And well, we love Yudi, but damn it, he doesn't qualify.
yeah,
Okay. But if
yeah,
there's an article that says Yudi's work was hailed by 9 university team that said this is the best work we have seen in, I don't know, exploration of outer space and
mm. How to go to
mathematical
Mars?
verification of the theory of relativity as measured against a black hole or something you've done pretty esoteric,
Yeah,
and people have talked about it.
yeah,
Okay, and they've talked about it at length, not just in a passing reference.
right, right.
So previously it used to be it had to be about you. Now they
Mm.
say it can be about you or your work. There should be
Oh, I
substantial
see.
discussion. See, there's a difference. So, for
Yeah.
example, sometimes let's say I had a client who invented edible packaging.
Mm.
So first you eat the hamburger, then you eat the package the hamburger came in. Okay. So, and that was very, very well covered during those days.
Mm.
It was
Mm.
all over. So when you have substantial discussion that meets that criterion, that there is
Mm.
discussion about you, it can be about your work as well.
Got it.
So they say even if you are a member of a team, let's say you are in CERN and you
Oh.
you discovered the God particle,
Mm.
right? You discovered the particle that gives mass to everything.
Yeah.
Um, you are a member of that team, and it could have 80 members.
Yeah.
It's still quite impressive.
Right.
If you are even a member of that team, that could qualify you. As to what is considered to be a major trade publication or major media, we look at several things. We look at the intended audience. So, for example, if it's a publication for um, theoretical physicists or quantum physicists,
Mm.
then your audience is going to be smaller, but it's quite distinguished.
Mm.
And then they look at relative circulation and viewership. So, for example, number of hits your article got as compared to other articles, etc. Make sense?
Yeah. Like if the article in Forbes magazine would be good, I'm guessing.
It probably would not qualify as
Oh,
a
really?
professional publication, but it could be argued as a major trade or major
Oh,
media.
yeah. Got it.
Okay, so trade publication is, I mean, extreme example is Science or Nature.
Mm.
Then comes judging your peers. Evidence that you have been asked to judge your peers and you have actually done so.
Mm.
Not only should have you have been asked, but you should actually have done so. This is something they developed over the last couple of years, that you must actually do it. Previously, being asked used to be enough.
Okay.
Okay, so I would have so many clients tell me, "Well, I was asked 11 or 12 times. I had no time. Does that count?" I said, "Well, we're going to argue it.
Right.
The fact that you were asked so many times may not help you meet this level one analysis, but it helps you in level two analysis."
Yeah.
So I had one guy who had been asked 57 times,
Mm. Mm.
but he was too busy. And that's, I think, a good sign. So don't discount anything. The reason I always educate our client is because they know their case and I know the law. If they know a little bit of the law and I know a little bit of the case, together we can make a great presentation.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can't be one-sided. We both have
Right.
to know each other. So when you go ask a lawyer about somebody to assess your resume, remember, I think most lawyers are pretty honest about their assessment. But
Yeah.
if somebody is overly optimistic and they give you all these great ideas, you can ask them these pointed questions. How
Yeah.
are we going to meet this at level two? How are we going
Mm.
to meet this? Because
Yeah.
it's not enough to say 3 out of 8, we're done.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least that's what the government says. Although I have argued in court that this is nonsense. 3 out of 8 is enough.
Right.
I
Right.
shouldn't have to do anything more than that. So I think my interpretation is correct, but until the government changes their mind, that's
Yeah.
what we are stuck with.
Yeah.
So peer reviews, even in scholarly conferences, if you have been reviewing abstracts for conferences and you decide what gets published in the conference or presented the conference, that covers it. Peer
Mm.
reviewer for publications, members of doctoral dissertation committees. That has happened very many times. It wasn't clear, but USCIS has made it clear. If you are a
Mm.
member of a PhD dissertation committee, or even any level after master's degree, we
Mm.
can argue. Can we argue at the master's degree level? Normally, they are not sent to a dissertation committee. They are judged internally by the professor, as far as I know.
Mm.
So, by all means, you can argue pretty much anything. If it
Yeah.
is not relevant for level one, it will be relevant for level two. This one is easy. By the way, membership in editorial boards is a very good idea. I always recommend that. Okay. So that's ultimate peer review. And I also I had a case where a very large corporation, when they did systems architecture, it was reviewed by an architecture review committee.
Mm. Yeah.
And those were only 5 people out of 55,000 employees.
Mm.
So they always reviewed the system architecture for all large projects. And I argued, and the government accepted, that that was part of peer review process.
Mm.
So there's no law that says I can't do peer review as a part of my job.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that if you're a manager, you would always qualify, but there is some room to argue these things.
Right. Right.
Let me run through the 4 that we've done so far real quickly: awards,
Mm-hmm.
associations, publish material about you, and judging your peers. Then comes your contributions of major significance to your field. Now, this is a tricky one, actually. You can present evidence of your original scientific, scholarly, athletic, or business related contributions of major significance. Sometimes they can lapse one over the other. So we had a guy who had developed a payment gateway using existing technologies, which was secure, and it was ultimately implemented all through the field. So
Yeah.
that was a significant contribution both in business and in science.
But that was part of his job.
That was part of his job, yes.
Yeah. So even if someone who's working at Tesla, for example, and were part of this project which generated solar thing and generated a lot of electricity, which significant, so then that they could argue
Well,
that.
I was going to cover that point, but let me cover it now. So remember, the criterion is to your field, not to Tesla. Tesla is owned by the Tesla boy.
Right.
Okay. The Tesla boy is a private individual.
Yeah.
So any contributions you made to Tesla are probably not helping the field. But we had a case in which we argued, and I've done this in case of AWS also. At one time, AWS, the Amazon services for internet, AWS had, I think, 89% or over 80% of the enterprise hosting market.
Mm.
So we argued that the person who did tremendous contributions towards AWS improvement, cybersecurity improvement, had actually made contributions to the field, and that was accepted
Got it. Okay.
because we had such a big market share.
Yeah.
And I argued that I don't have to affect the 100% of the market as long as I'm affecting the field. And when the field is 80% owned by one player, and this player is a significant member in that game,
Yeah.
you've got to give me that criteria.
Yeah. Going back to the Tesla example, if that project made it, let's assume Tesla made decision that this is great and we should open source it so that people can
Yes,
use it.
yes.
So, okay.
I would then argue absolutely. That happens all the time. Sun Microsystems, let's say, invents Java, puts it out as
Yeah.
openly available, open source.
Yeah.
You can, if you make contributions to Java, we can say it's to the field.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay? And what USCIS looks at when they look at major significance, they'll of course look at letters, etc., that are detailed, testimonials. They also want to see widespread commentary or attention given to your invention, discovery, etc. Okay.
Mm.
And one thing that was always problematic, we used to argue, and for many years we argued it successfully, that if you have patents,
Mm.
that's an original contribution, no doubt about that, right? Because otherwise you won't get patent.
Yeah.
And even for patent pending, there is an argument even now to be made, even if the patent is not granted,
Mm.
not yet granted. So we used to argue that just because the patent is being commercialized and being used, that is enough to say it is a significant, major significant contribution to the field. Government has started saying no, give us more,
Mm.
because unless there is some significant attention on that invention, there are so many inventions made every year.
Okay.
The next one is the articles that you have written, scholarly article, and they must have been published in major trade publications or other major media, even in conferences, by the way.
So the articles which you or the pieces you write in Economic Times would consider.
I would be hard pressed to argue that. Why? Because they're not written for scholarly publications, scholarly individuals. But the articles that I write for American Law Institute, um, which are read by only lawyers, they are definitely scholarly articles.
Got it. So, for example, if I am in program management, product management, and I talk about new product software development cycle which we are working on, and
Mhm,
now that I'm publishing in a bigger, like a product
mhm.
management cycle magazine, which is famous for product managers,
Yep.
that would consider. Okay.
Yes, because your audience is product managers.
Yeah.
So then we come to contributions of, okay, we did that. Scholarly articles is what we were doing. Major
Hmm.
trade publications or other major media, or conferences, even if you do it in conferences. You don't have to be the sole author or the first author. This was
Nice.
always in doubt. It has been made clear by the government.
So, okay, so if you wrote a paper, white paper, and published in IEEE, is that
Yeah, it counts.
okay?
Why not?
Cool.
Normally, they say the sign of a scholarly article is it's normally peer reviewed. It has footnotes, endnotes, bibliography. I
Mm,
don't think that's really a deal breaker. I think the main thing is it is in major media and or trade journals, and it is for scholarly audience.
okay.
Actually, they look at the intended audience and the circulation.
Nice.
So we
Okay.
did scholarly articles.
Yeah.
And now we come to leading or critical role in organizations with distinguished reputation. So if you have performed leading or critical role for distinguished organizations, and they give some great example. One example is if you are a senior faculty or senior research position in a renowned department, university, or a private employer. If you are a principal or named investigator, or you get a small business innovation research grant um, as one of the inventors or as the principal investigator. SBIR was always tricky. We used to have trouble with SBIR. They made it clear SBIR is one of the accepted ways you can demonstrate your leadership or critical role. If you are a member of a key committee within an organization, the example I gave you, so
Hmm.
look at this. That guy was a member of the architecture review committee
Yeah.
in a 55,000 employee company. So he qualified as a peer reviewer. He also qualifies. He's a member
Oh.
of a committee that's quite distinguished. So that's leadership or critical role. Sometimes what you publish also relates to something you have discovered.
Mm. Mm.
So if you discovered the boson Higgs particle and that you wrote a great article about that, that's one criterion. But the fact that you discovered it as a member of a 95 or
Yeah.
400 scientist team, that also is a criterion. So there are two
Uh,
different criteria meet with the same thing.
right. Okay.
They also talk about if you are a founder or a co-founder or a contributor to intellectual property of a startup business that has developed a distinguished reputation. Remember, you have to have a distinguished reputation. Your role should be important to the organization's goals and objectives. So let's say you work for IBM, but you work for IBM's network threat assessment group.
Mm.
Okay. Now, it can be said that's just a small part of IBM's overall business. But if it is shown as the backbone of entire IBM efforts, cybersecurity, it would become critical to the organization, not to a
Mm.
particular effort.
Got it. Okay.
And
This.
then the last one is very interesting. It's the
Mm.
high salary. Actually, the word used is high salary or remuneration. So what does that mean? What if I
Mm.
don't get a lot of money, but my bonuses are astoundingly high? For example,
Mm.
we had a investment banker with a base salary of 98,000, but his bonuses were 600,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Is he your best friend?
Oh, always anybody who makes money is my best friend. Okay?
Yeah.
So what we are looking for is, remember, this is not money you are already you have to be making now. It could be in the past. That last
Oh,
year
okay.
I had a job that gave me $695,000.
Mm.
That meets the high remuneration criterion.
Mm.
And then what they talk about is you have to look at comparative data. And remember, you can't compare apples and oranges. So on one hand, you say I get $695,000, but you're comparing it with salaries. And that's not
Mm.
remuneration. Unless you have the remuneration data for other engineers, you can't say I made $695,000. You can say I made $95,000. You can compare 95 figures. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the way it works. So that out of these eight, that's what we are looking at. Can you meet three of these?
Right.
And if you don't have something that exactly matches this, you can bring in something similar and the government will consider it. And then at the end of it, the dreaded qualitative analysis, which is what is called in other contexts, again, step two analysis, which is basically does your resume overall look like you are one of the top 10%? That's just a figure I'm quoting. That's kind of the way we shorthand describe it.
Mm.
The idea is you're one of the very few who've reached the apex of your profession, the very top
Mm,
people.
mm.
That, in a nutshell, is an O1A.
How different is it for O1B? Is it same?
O1B, in some ways, is easier,
Okay.
and in some ways, it is more difficult. First of all, there are a lot more scientists than there are broadcasters.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the number of people who qualify for it are fewer uh, quantitatively. Once you are a member of that group, it might be in some ways a little easier for you
Mm,
to qualify. Still not as easy as an H1B, for example. You
yeah.
have a degree, you have a job that requires a degree, and you won the lottery, you qualify. And
Yeah.
that's where we stand. We'll do
Okay.
O1Bs. I will prepare a similar
Will
right
do. Yeah. Yeah. Will do O1B. And when can they apply for O1A?
any time of the year. There is no hard and fast time for it.
Sorry, I meant like, do they have to be H1B, or
No,
if they are on OPT, they can apply,
you
or
can
they are
go from
even on
OPT.
if F1,
Absolutely,
they can apply?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
what's the benefit of O1A? Like, is it like continuous?
It's continuous extensions, years after years after years.
Okay.
That's the one good thing. And also, what you do is you get onto O1A. If you are from a country other than India, O1A is almost a dual intent visa. I've never had a problem with it. So you can have a green card going if you are from a country other than India. If you are from a country like India, you can also keep going O1 and H1 because ultimately you want to be in a visa that is exempt from discretion. Because
Right.
see, O1A, you could have won O1A three times, and the fourth time they could deny it.
Oh,
So I want to get away from that. I want
yeah.
to get into an H1B because one, it is 100% in my favor once I go through it, and two,
Right.
I avoid all the problem of this huge amount of data I have to submit with each O1A.
And when you say each, as in like every time you extend it?
Every time you extend.
Oh, okay. And how long do you get it? Is it 10 years?
I believe it's 3 years. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'll
Okay.
post them on my blog.
And then from O1A, you can go to green card.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. This was awesome. This was
Yeah.
very
So
insightful. So,
what I'm doing is I'm trying to make a listing of all the ways you can avoid the H1B.
yeah,
So we've done O1As,
EB1As.
EB1As. We'll talk about probably O1B, and we'll talk about what is an exempt organization, what is a quota exempt job,
Yeah.
how does that work, and all of these are shorter topics,
Yeah.
20 minutes to 30 minutes topics, so we
Yeah.
can accommodate them even during our regular
Yeah.
calls.
Yeah. We can do that. Yep.